was thinking, as I was doing that song, one of the Symphony Hall shows back in the 80s, I had Bo Diddley as one of my guests, and David Bromberg was there as well. And backstage, I didn't know this, but Bo Diddley was a trained violinist. He studied violin as a kid, and he took Bromberg's fiddle, and Bromberg took Bo's guitar, the big square one with the fur cover on it. And they were playing Havana Gila to the Bo Diddley beat. It's one of those, you never have a video camera when you need one. No. So we're going to do questions?
Before we do that, there's one thing that I have to say, because there's somebody that has to be acknowledged for this movie. He's up in the balcony, our editor, Mark Hurd, who... job of our handing him stacks of hard drives and piles of paper and saying, okay, make a movie. We'll look at it in a couple of days. So, thank you, Mark. And also, I don't believe our sound designer, Jay Rose, here, he recently had some surgery, but he also, has to take this mishmash of sounds and turn it into a cohesive soundtrack. So, in that sense, way in the back. Yeah.
So who do you listen to, especially on current?
Well, I've been driving around with my 14-year-old daughter, and I've heard a lot of stuff that I'd never heard before, some of which was actually really good. There's some stuff out there that I think if these guys were my age, they'd be called folk singers. But they're younger, so they're not. I don't know what they are called, but there's some good stuff out there. Band that a duo that broke up called the Civil Wars. Do some really good stuff. On and on.
Questions? Right here. Are your children going to follow in your footsteps? I know mine aren't.
I don't think so. I've got a grown-up boy who's a photographer and an artist. He's at the College of Art in Glasgow, running their photo lab for them, and another boy who's in Arizona who plays guitar a little bit, but he's in the restaurant business. Sienna, I don't know about. She might turn into an actress or a writer. She's a good writer as well. So, and she's learning guitar. We'll see where that goes. Sir.
How old was that guitar you were just playing?
That guitar is just a week old. It was. I go through them fast. No, I think I bought that in '77. I bought it at McCabe's guitar shop in Santa Monica. And it was made by a guy named Don Musser. And after I bought it, I asked, who's Don Musser? And they said, oh, he came in a year ago and he bought this book, How to Build a Steel String Guitar. And this was the second one he'd ever sold. The first one he sold to Peter Fonda. And this one I bought, and I love it. It's a great guitar.
You want to say a word about the Naked Lady?
Oh, the Naked Lady. My new girlfriend. I had an Epiphone Texan back in the 70s, early 70s, and I took it to a woman in Boston who did fabulous inlay, and I asked her if she would do a reclining nude with a snake on the neck for me, a biblical theme. And she did, and the guitar became quite famous in her own right. She became known as the Naked Lady, and it was fun, when the roadie yelled to the stagehand, Tom wants the naked lady in the dressing room. Heads would turn. But she burned up in a fire in 1990, and I was without a naked lady for quite a while. And this company in Canada, Mackenzie and Marr, approached me and asked if they could do a Tom Rush guitar. And we talked about the wood and the shape of the neck and the tuning machines, and I finally got my nerve up and asked if we could have a naked lady with a snake on the neck. And they said, sure. So the Naked Lady rides again. There's...
of us have lives like that, which at times work out really well, and others are different. And it's really interesting to hear how, over the course of your 50 years, how you went through variations like that.
What was the last part?
It's very interesting how your life changed in different parts, different stages of your life. Your personal life and your music.
Well, the odd thing, the thing that strikes me is that when the things I think the question is, you know, as life ebbs and flows and things get bad and things get good, how does that affect the musical side of things? And the odd part of that for me is that when times are tough, I tend to write really silly songs, and when nothing's wrong, I write songs to open a vein by. Can't quite figure that out, but it seems to be the way it works.
Which do you like better, New England or Wyoming?
Well, I'm a New England guy. I'm from New Hampshire and all that, but Wyoming is spectacular. The problem with Wyoming, the problem with Jackson, is that the winters are just spectacular. I was looking up the season charts, for planting stuff. When's the last frost? When's the first frost for different parts of New England? And I thought, I'll check Wyoming. The last frost date for Jackson is July 31st. The first frost date is August 1st.
Not good farming.
Not good.
It was great to see Jack Holzman in the movie, and the Elektra stuff, that's like 50 years that you did that. Will there ever be like a Tom Rush box set from Elektra Records or anything like that?
Well, one of the problems there, it's a rights problem. There were several different labels involved, and somebody would have to get permission and pay royalties to each one of those labels to assemble something like that. But maybe Todd would take it on.
Jack Holzman really was a true visionary, I think, in that Elektra Records part of it. I was happy and thrilled to interview him. And what he said about Tom is absolutely true. The fact that Tom, didn't compromise, he did the things, and that's why he's still so wonderful today, I think. He's really persevered because of that.
From my perspective, I was so happy to be on Elektra Records because Jack had, basically, he did have a vision for the label, and everything was top quality. Even though he wasn't hugely successful at that point, he would do, put a lot of money into artwork and the packaging. And many people came up to me and told me they bought my record just because it was on Elektra. They never heard of me, but they trusted Elektra enough to go out and spend the money on this record. So I was privileged to be there.
Speaking of writing, I look forward to your newsletter when it comes. It's hilarious, and I wonder if you have any plans at all, and I hope you do, to preserve these into some kind of little booklet. They're really great little short stories.
Did you know that I sent out a newsletter, an email newsletter? I didn't pay her to ask that. It actually hadn't occurred to me to have the collected newsletters.
Of course, they never go away. It is the internet.
But I'm trying to write an autobio, and it keeps veering off in different directions. It's like trying to wrap Jello in rubber bands. But currently, the thrust of it seems to be an advice book for aspiring musicians. How to do a sound check, how not to do a sound check, stuff like that. And I think it might be entertaining because it will contain many horror stories. I started a book at one point called The Worst Gig I Ever Did, which was going to be a collection of anecdotes from different artists about those times when things go horribly, hopefully hysterically wrong. And never got enough anecdotes assembled to do it. But I might actually get back to that.
For the next 50 years.
There was one, I can't remember who it was from, but it was a guy playing a VFW hall in the South. And the oldest living VFW, the oldest veteran, got up to introduce him and said, "We're going to have a good time tonight." And It's going to be some good music, but before we get started, I'd like everybody to rise. And the flag is out being dry cleaned, but if you could all turn and face the Pepsi machine. We'll pledge allegiance. I like that.
Speaking of writing, you talked about the muse visiting you, and I was wondering if you have a process of songwriting. Does melody and lyrics tend to come together? Does one?
You know, I wish I did. I wish I had a system. The way it seems to work, usually, but not always, is that I get a scrap of melody and a few words, and then I usually try to develop the melody first. But sometimes the words just arrive, and you can't do anything to stop them. But my basic philosophy is that there are a lot of hit songs with really dumb lyrics. There are no hit songs with really dumb music. So getting the music right is, I think, job one.
Way in the back. Yes.
I hear you're trying to move somewhere. What is it you're trying to find in this movie?
Anybody have anything?
Right. We're thinking of getting an Airstream. No, we moved out of Vermont, and we're now traveling around looking for the right school for Sienna and the right place for us to live. And we're just taking our time with it, checking out neighborhoods and so forth. But thanks for asking.
Did you see yourself on Jimmy Fallon?
I did. Somebody sent me.
Many people have shared that clip.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment. Jimmy Fallon did somebody sent him, if you haven't seen it, somebody sent Jimmy Fallon a copy of one of my album covers and told him he looked like me. And he took offense at this. And got himself a wig and a paste-on mustache. Did this comparison himself with one of my album covers, it was a funny bit.
We did invite him actually tonight. Jimmy, you're not. No, I guess
He's chicken.
We did send an invitation to his producers to see if he would come tonight.
Tom, are you going to do any more instructional or
You know, I've been talking with Homespun about doing that for years and years now. The answer is maybe. You know, we agree that it's a good idea, but nobody can seem to find the time to actually do it. So I'd like to do that, and it'll happen someday, but it's not on the schedule right now.
Yes, there's no sheet music available, and your open tuning, sheet music doesn't do justice.
Right, the tunings do confuse people. I've had people institutionalized trying to learn Rockford Sunday in a regular tuning.
Yes, sir. Back.
The interpretation of Joni Mitchell was an important part of your early career, but the film only gets very brief mention.
I think we can take that. I mean, actually, I will say the Urge for Going section is one of the longest in the film, mainly because it's such a wonderful song. But I think Tom says it correctly. Joni Mitchell was important at that moment and continues to be. But there's a lot, and the film is 83 minutes long. I don't know how much more we wanted to really put in about anything. But I mean, I think she was important, and James was important, and Jackson was important, but he was important to them. So that's how it goes.
Well, that particular song, because of WBZ's coverage of it, really helped get my name out there. I mean, these guys got fan mail from Guam and New Zealand. It was phenomenal. And the fact they were playing that tape, 3 or 4 times a day was quite good.
Dick Summer is a great guy, too. It's really sweet. Very sweet guy, and it was a real honor meeting him. I will also say that we did try to get Joni Mitchell. She does not grant many interviews, and we never heard back. So, I mean, I did try.
I want to say that Jefferson K was also part of that BZ team. Jefferson recently left the building, as we say, but he was a great guy too.
I absolutely love your concert on the live stream I love the fact that I was able to chat with my friends that also we used to see you all the time in Boston, that are all over the country, and to just be chatting with all these people while you were on the computer, like while we were watching you. It was amazing. Are you going to do it that way again this year?
The technology is great. Unfortunately, I was on the other side of the camera lens, so I didn't get to participate.
We had
in
somebody
any of
from
that.
New Zealand.
Right, and Australia. Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, that was a fairly expensive undertaking, I think, again, to say the least. So we may find a simpler, if we can find a simpler way to do it. Obviously, that was a fairly extensive production. If we can find a simpler way to do it, I think we can take it.
Did you cross paths with Bob Dylan at all?
Yeah.
I've never even heard that word.
It's a good word. Yeah, we didn't go bowling all the time. But yeah, I met him a few times. We bumped into each other. One of the first times I hung out with him, it was kind of an interesting thing, but we were having coffee in a coffee shop in the Village, and somebody came by and tapped him on the shoulder and said they really liked his first album on Columbia. And Bob grabbed the guy and basically pumped him for compliments for a good 20 minutes. All the guy wanted to say was, "I really liked your album, thanks." And he got pinned to the floor for quite a while because Bob was really eager to hear get some positive feedback. Which he's definitely gotten by now.
You do a lot of scenes here on the Rockford. Is that because you like playing there?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part.
So they were asking about whether you like
Oh, the
playing
Shailen Lou.
Rockford, the Shailen Lou.
The Shailen Lou is a fabulous venue, yes, absolutely. If any of you guys get a chance to go up to Rockford and see a show, there's this little tiny, it's not tiny, it's a couple hundred seats, but it's an exquisitely put together theater with a huge glass window in the back. You saw it in the movie. Look out at the harbor, and it's a lovely spot.
And we were lucky to get to follow Tom to some really great different places, see different kinds of shows. So that was fun for us.
No. Well, thank you. I'll do my best.
I'm just curious whether you'd seen Inside Llewyn Davis, which had its own sort of take on the scene, and what you thought of it, if you had.
I have not seen it. I've gotten all kinds of feedback from friends, mostly negative. But Tom Paxton thought it was a really good movie, and I think the challenge for me and people who were actually there in the Village at the time is to separate the concept of this wasn't a documentary, it was a movie, and it was based supposedly on this, that, and the other person, but the fact is it was a movie, and Paxton felt it was a really good movie. It wasn't a good documentary at all, but it was a great movie.
Okay. All right, we'll ask one.
I'm curious. Hi, Tom. We've traveled together for years. So there are lots of other stories that are in the movie. I'm curious how much you had to take out. How much you took? How much you shot, and how you formed into a story, having Tom narrated with storytelling, is a nice form.
Yeah,
Well, they took out the part about the Girl Scout troop. I mean, they never proved anything.
With any documentary, you struggle with that because you want to make the movie of a length that people will sit through. You also hope that you're introducing new people to the subject, and so you try to make it as broad-based as possible. So I'm guessing we probably shot maybe 50, 60 hours worth of footage for this. So it's down to a 90-minute film. So yeah, I mean, you have to consolidate it. You look to find a story arc. This is the first documentary, and I've done we've done four music documentaries. This is the first one where we have the first person narrating it, because I don't think anybody could tell the story as well as Tom. I mean, he's an excellent, excellent storyteller. So that's why we did that. He just seemed to be the best choice. And you got the best choice.
But I seem to remember hearing something like a 16-to-1 ratio when you're making a movie.
We're much bigger than that for us. We just shoot.
Yeah. Well, it was also, it took them 5 or 6 times to get me to tell it the same way twice.
Or to sit down long enough.
Well, thank you very much. In the back we have different music. All of Tom's music is back there, videos of For the Love of the Music. And thank you so much for coming. Thanks to Lyndsey for his use of this wonderful theater. So.